evening and welcome to Talking Point here on Ghana Television. This program is live on GBC 24, is live on radio, unique 95.7 megahertz, on the internet at gbcghana.com. My name is George Sapo. Now, Ghana's Electoral Commission in recent times has come under a lot of criticisms and accusations that it is not ready for the 2016 general election scheduled for December 7. The Electoral Commission at a point in time wanted to organize the elections in November 7. However, it was rejected by Parliament. The recent court cases and agitations by some political parties have resulted in fears in certain quarters that the Electoral Commission might not be ready for the December 7 elections. Is that the case? Is the EC ready for the December 7 elections? Are we ready for the December 7 elections? And the political parties, are they also ready? Is the media also ready? These plus we'll be talking about here with our guest seated next to me, Albert Kofiahin, who is the National Coordinator, Coalition of Domestic Election Observers. That's Kodeyo. Next to Albert is Mark Stevens, who is the Deputy Chief Observer, European Union Election Observation Mission. And next to Mark is Eric Kofi Japasu, who is the Head of Communications at the Electoral Commission. You can send us a text message or WhatsApp message on 0244 269352. 0244-269352. It's strictly for text messages and WhatsApp messages. You're not supposed to call this number. And remember, our first rule for these text messages and WhatsApp messages is that your language should be civil, good for television and of course for radio, else we will not going to air it out. Once again, good evening. My name is George, and let me say good evening to our guest. Good evening.
Good evening.
I hope you're all doing well.
Yes.
Okay. Let me start with Eric from the Electoral Commission. You organized editors, actually you met editors on Thursday and to tell them exactly what your plans are and how far you've gone. There's still some doubts whether you can really deliver. Is the Electoral Commission ready?
Thank you very much, George. Good evening to you.
Good evening to my
co-panelists. And good evening to our listeners. The simple answer is that yes, the Electoral Commission is ready, as it has always been, to deliver on its mandate of rolling out another credible elections this year.
What makes you so confident that you're very much going to deliver?
Yeah, we are very confident because, George, when you see our infrastructure, existing infrastructures are all in place, right from the polling station, across the constituencies, the district offices, the regional offices, up to the national center.
Let me move to Albert here.
Yeah.
Our readiness in terms of the Electoral Commission, civil society, and other stakeholders. Whether we are ready, yes.
Okay. If you had asked this question maybe about a week or 2 weeks ago, maybe I would have had some mixed feeling or some doubt about it. I remember Kodeyo even came out, he raised a red flag, and it was mainly due to the fact that a lot of cases have been brought against the Electoral Commission. We have filed a lot of suits, and this was so controversial. We thought that the Commission ought to be careful, and we were very lucky. The Attorney General and the Chief Justice, in fact, came in and hinted that they were going to make sure that these things were resolved. And true to her word, I think by now, I think we all know that these court cases have been resolved. Apart from that, what would have been the problem is to do with their materials that are supposed to be sent to the field, and then about ballot papers and that kind of thing. As we speak, the Electoral Commission has finished printing all the parliamentary ballots. And as I was even driving, coming to this studio this evening, I saw a lot of notices of poll for the parliamentary. And I went to the Electoral Commission, I think about a week ago, and I was convinced myself that a lot of things were happening. The only problem now is with the notice of poll for the presidential. That has to also come so that it will be pasted around for people to know what is going on.
Mark, how long have you been in Ghana?
The European Union, we arrived on the 26th of October to establish the mission.
Okay.
So I've been here 2 weeks now.
Okay, you've been here 2 weeks now, and so far, what have you observed?
Well, I mean, and we've been following all the events you're talking about, and I've observed elections all over the world and in Ghana in the past as well. And I know elections are a time of rumour and speculation everywhere, and Ghana is certainly no exception to that, and a lot of the stories we've just been talking about and we're very familiar with. We met the chair of the Election Commission on Friday morning, and she assured us that in the wake of the resolution of the nominations process following the Supreme Court decision, that the Election Commission was ready to move forward. We know that the EC is a very experienced body, having run many, many elections. Our long-term observers are based in each of the regions of the country, and they've been following the various processes we're talking about.
How many observers do you have in there?
We have 12 teams, so one team in each region with an extra 2 teams in Ashanti and 2 teams in Accra because of the size of the populations there. And they've been following the very sort of processes we've just been discussing. They've been meeting election officials and following this recruitment process of officials and following the distribution of materials and such things. I mean, we're quite pleased that following the nomination period had us worried because it seemed that the process was going to struggle to meet its deadlines, and thankfully the Supreme Court decision brought some closure to that. And we're now hopeful, as my colleague said, of following it and hoping it goes forward. I think one of the things it's exemplified, though, is a lesson we learned for previous elections in Ghana, is that the timelines as they're laid out do not provide much flexibility for the Election Commission. So if something goes wrong, if there's a legal challenge, that takes time to resolve, which is normal. And then the Election Commission is put into a position of having to rush to try and get things done. So I think hopefully for the future, perhaps the legislature can think about that the timelines for the election can perhaps provide a bit more breathing space for the Election Commission to resolve disputes.
You mean the election should be earlier than December?
No, it's not the election should be earlier, but the processes should be laid out in a way that if there's a challenge to the nomination process, there's enough time for that to be resolved without putting in crisis the printing of ballot papers and such things. Yeah, because challenges are normal. It's part of the process. People can challenge decisions. It's foreseen, so they need to have enough time for that.
But so far, have you observed something that you think that it's not right or it's not supposed to be so, based on your observation?
Well, the sort of premise of international election observers is would be completely impartial, and we do not interfere in the process. And I think it's always important to stress that. We are here to observe, to see what goes on, to issue a report afterwards, and to make some recommendations.
But in your report, you can indicate in your report whether the election was free or fair or the other way.
We make an assessment against relevant regional international standards at the time after the elections. So we don't offer comments on a blow-by-blow account. We're following the election campaign. We're following the Election Commission's preparations for the poll. We're following the conduct of the media. We're analysing the laws and such things, and we try to bring all that together. From my personal experience around different elections, of course the media and everyone wants to every single day analyse and make a decision based on that. But I think it's good sometimes to step back, to let the process unfold and see what's happening and make a judgment at that time and not rush to judgment. I don't think it's helpful, particularly for internationals, to do that.
All right. Let's move further. This one coming to Albert. Albert, you issued a roadmap, and in the roadmap there are certain things you outlined for the Electoral Commission to do. One is based on enhancing on its image, trust and credibility by making everything that transparent, inclusive, accountability and proactive communication guides for it to work. Listening to some political leaders on the campaign platform and their comments about the Electoral Commission, there's still some level of mistrust there. And always if the Electoral Commission will organize the election free and fair, if the Electoral Commission will do the right thing, then this whole process will be good. Is this issue still battling with trust issues? I mean, not forgetting the CDD report that said about 63% of Ghanaians have that trust in the Electoral Commission.
Before this report was, came out, the Electoral Commission did have very low credibility. And then after the CDD report, this was raised about 60%. So that was very nice. And then we also said in our report that we wanted the EC, and that was before Kofi even came in. We wanted the EC to be more proactive, coming out very often to meet stakeholders, explaining issues to them. So we said this because we felt that they were sometimes too quiet for our liking. And there were many issues that they were supposed to be coming out and explaining to people. You see, when you do these things, you bring the people along with you, you carry them along with the process. But I think it's now getting better. It got better, and then these court issues came in again. And I would say that with the defeats that they were, encountering, the law courts.
The defeat that the EC were encountering.
Yeah.
You described that as defeat.
Yes, they were. It's like you go to court and then there was a loss or something like that. Definitely, this does not go well, for them. And even despite this problem, I think it is still on its feet, doing well, making sure that the election dates, they have attained the targets that they have set. So I think they are doing well. Let them continue with this, and let everybody know what you are doing, and then I'm sure Ghanaians will be happy.
Could I just say something?
yes.
I mean, confidence in elections comes from transparency, and I think some lessons were learned from the past. And I think the sort of measures that the Election Commission are putting in place in the polling station, copies of the result is posted, the party agents are present. You go up to the constituency collation centre, copies of the collation party agents are present. Likewise at the regional level, likewise at the national level. That's a very good system. Party agents are present at every stage, copies are present at every stage. Whether you need cameras to be present as well, why not? But I mean, basically, even the formal system that is in place, in theory, is very good. Of course, in practice, we shall see, and we all hope it comes to pass like that. But confidence comes from transparency, and that system, in theory, should serve them well. And we'll have observers there, like Cadeo will, following very closely to make sure that actually comes to pass as it's laid out.
What happens if, this process that you describe as being good, it's put in place, but yet certain key major stakeholders are not happy. They still have trust issues with the Electoral Commission. What happens if that is?
I don't know. I mean, if I can just draw experiences from elsewhere, because we can't see into the future. Those political parties here, they know the process. The Supreme Court made a ruling on the 2012 elections and identified some shortcomings. Quite a lot of those shortcomings have been addressed, including in the transparency and the role of party agents and things. I think the process is quite a good process as it's laid out, and the parties can engage on it and get full access to it. So, but the Election Commission, political parties have to try and find a way of working together. I've come back and I've noticed, of course, this relationship between the parties and the Election Commission. And that's something that hopefully will improve as we go along now.
Eric, briefly, let's touch on the reforms. You came out with 27 reforms, and we have about 23, 22 days to the dates of how far have you gone with the implementation of these reforms, especially the ones that they had to take oath in the presence of a magistrate or a judicial officer.
Yeah. Thank you very much. The reforms are many, 27 in all, and they cover all the activities right from registration up to election and even post-election activities. Those relating to registration, I think we've crossed that bridge. They've been implemented. Then with regards to the election ones, we are talking about, as you said, giving out of the coalition sheets to the parties. Now, the Supreme Court, that was a reform which was not captured in law, but agreed among the stakeholders. But now the Supreme Court has given a legal backing to it by ruling that we should, as a matter of the requirements of the law, hand it over to them. We have the use of manual verification is also now in the law. So this year's election, even where the biometric verification device fails to verify you at the tail end of the verification process, you still go through a manual verification system. We've enhanced the qualification for our temporal officials, and then their training, the number of days of the training, and then the content of the training. Okay, now we're now focusing, we're giving them longer time, we're giving them practical hands-on training, which will cover the rules and regulations, the procedures involved, simulation, and even the use of live document, okay, during the
use of live document. What that means?
What I mean is the real document, no longer formerly used to be dummies. Okay, you get a replica of them. At this time, we intend bringing out the real document for them to have practical training on.
Mark, are you familiar with our reforms, the 27 reforms from the Electoral Commission?
I wouldn't say I'm familiar with all 27, but I'm familiar with some, and I'm really pleased to see some of them as well. I mean, the European Union had a mission here in 2008, and I personally was here in 2012 in another capacity. And I think I would pick on some of them. The increase in the number of polling stations is a good thing. I think we all remember, particularly in the crowded urban areas, the long queues that many people faced, the light diminishing, increase in tensions in some areas. So I think that was a very good thing. The transparency measures we've talked about, I think they're brought in at more levels now, and I think that's a good thing. This biometric verification of voters, I remember quite a few polling stations in 2012 I was at, and our observers were at, where the verification machines were failing.
Yes.
And I think lots of countries grapple with this. You have integrity and inclusivity. Ideally you achieve both, but somewhere there's a balance. The higher the levels of integrity, the threshold for integrity, the lower the levels of inclusivity in some instances, i.e. if your fingerprint is not recognised, you're not allowed to vote, led to lots of people not being allowed to vote. So I think this reliance or move to a sort of like an alternative way of identifying the voter, but still through the biometrics, it provides for integrity still, but it provides for a degree of flexibility, which I think from the voter perspective must be a welcomed thing. I think the transmission is a very good thing, but I know from other experiences, you need to be able to meet, you raise expectations, you need to be able to meet them. So I really hope that this system, which as I understand you're going to show through the IPAC mechanism to parties soon, everything is good, and the expectations are raised about the transmission of results comes to pass, because I've seen in other instances where it doesn't quite work as expected, leads to consternation of everyone, which is obvious.
Okay, all right. Ahmed, briefly on the reforms.
I think we are very happy about it, and I told you earlier on that we are there's an advocacy on it, trying to monitor and see whether these things are being implemented. One, for example, is the fact that, especially the special voting, it used not to be for even the media, but now we've allowed them. We're also happy about the fact that they're going to have a lot of, the recruitment is going to be done with people who are going to be very, very resourceful at the time of the election.
Gentlemen, we'll leave it here. Thank you very much for your time. We wish you all the best. And the Electoral Commission says it's ready. You've listened to our other two guests too, and how satisfied I'll describe it they are with the Electoral Commission's job. Are Ghanaians also ready is another question. Are you also ready? And let's see how best we can all go out there on December 7th to just vote. And just briefly, the violence is just not necessary. What happened this afternoon is absolutely not necessary. Let's see how best we can all work together for the peace of this nation. Good evening. My name is George Saho. We'll be back same time next week. Enjoy the rest of our programs.